Straight out the East Blue, call me Luffy, I'm a beast too. Anybody you speak to will tell you what I've been through. I'm as fast as a pistol blasting you suckers. A record that now I'm stepping up, getting rough, get a second. I'm the captain, activating hacky, I'm cracking knuckles, attacking. So buckle up if you're lacking, watch my bounty as it's racking up. You ain't ever stacking up, I will fucking end you if you ever hurt my Nakama. It doesn't matter if you're Navy, you're crazy to face me. The aura of a conqueror, even Kaido is shaky. And break it in, cause I'm made to win. And maybe rubber, but you need protection from this pirate king.
What's up, everyone? Welcome once again to our continuation of the look back at 1,000 chapters of One Piece. Special note for today's opening, that was from Rustage, featuring a shit ton of YouTube rappers. I'm not going to list them all, sadly. I'll have a link in the descriptions. You can go read all the many talented people who each did a voice of each of the Straw Hat Pirate crew. It's an amazing video, and he has a bunch of really fun One Piece raps where oftentimes they're rapping in the characters themselves. So, a lot of fun. But once again, I am Sean, Bearded Capelin.
I am Jerry Robo Tengu Smith.
And with us once again. Oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off. I'm trying to give you the intro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. And I'm Mike Delvecchio.
Yes, he is. Little gentleman.
Sorry, we've got a little bit of cabin fever.
Oh yeah.
What you guys didn't know about these episodes is we actually locked ourselves in a cabin for 24 hours, and Sean is basically forcing us to talk about One Piece.
We've literally been having to watch every episode that ever came out in preparation for this.
In 24 hours.
Yes.
We've just got 32 screens showing a different episode on each screen. And we're just, basically watching them all at once. It's like that scene from The Matrix, when Neo walks in and it's all Neos, but it's just all like One Piece, of every episode.
Which goes to show you how our memories are so perfect this entire time and how we've remembered every little detail without getting anything wrong.
Not a thing.
No, we've hit it directly on the head. We are so on point. We're gonna blame everything that is missaid on this evening's episode to my rum drink that I have in front of me, so it will all be okay.
Well, a proper pirate needs to drink while reminiscing about the good old days. But we did not end the last episode on some good old days, now did we?
Oh no. We did not. We had a pirate crew formerly known as the Straw Hat Pirates.
Yeah, and we had losses, and we had wars, and we had Buggy become the best character in the entire franchise. So it wasn't all bad.
Very, very true.
But, so...
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, no promises that we'll get caught up. This is our road to 1,000.
Yeah.
So if we don't finish it, this will be episode 3.5. If we do, I guess it'll be part 4. We'll figure that out whenever we get to the end. We might just say, and then some shit happened, later on, and that's all you get. So
hey, look, here, it's called a retrospective, not a play-by-play, motherfuckers. Let's do this. So when we last left off, it was the end of the Marineford War. We just lost Ace. We lost Whitebeard. Luffy is fucking destroyed, just devastated emotionally and physically. He went through some shit, through that whole war. So he got dropped off by the great Buggy into Law's hands, and the Surgeon of Death, of course, who you want to send someone to get repaired. And that's where we'll be kind of picking it up from there.
Yeah. Luffy essentially is they got him all the way back to Boa Hancock's island. He is not in a good place mentally. He is going through some stuff. And it's kind of funny because we totally did I totally ad-libbed and fast forward just so we could get to the time skip. But there is a lot of pain and suffering in between that.
Yeah.
So one of the let's see. They go into the flashback first, and then we get to the stuff with Rayleigh, right? Or is it vice versa? I'm trying to remember how that went down.
I think the flashback happens before the Rayleigh stuff. I think.
I think it's like Luffy, just kind of while he's healing, he's thinking back about Ace.
Yeah. He's
we'll go with
He's having lots of feels, and it is a bad time for Luffy. But the story essentially takes us back to Luffy's past whenever he was a young child and when he first met Ace. This is the flashback Dawn Island, Band of Brothers, Ace and Luffy's past. Because at this point we all know that Ace was Roger's son,
Right.
And you find out essentially that reluctantly, because Ace was a bad boy, and because all like Garp got thrown on all these misfit children.
Right.
And Garp is a great role model and mentor. That's why he just dumps them on mountain bandits that he knows in the area that basically owes him.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
And
because
in the mountain.
I say because of course a dedicated decorated Marine knows mountain bandits.
yeah. It's so great. And you kind of figure out this whole thing with Garp, and he's kind of like got this camaraderie with some, outlaws and stuff like that. He's like, you know what, you're wanted, but you're not like a bad person, right? Because that's kind of how he was with Roger. It was sort of a rivalry with them,
Right.
back in the day. So he already has Ace here, and Ace has his own thing. Like, these bandits don't pay attention at all. They're like the worst babysitters ever. Worse, almost worse than Garp, but they care a little bit. So whenever he ends up bringing Luffy, his actual grandchild, to these bandits, he kind of sort of clings onto Ace, and he's like, oh hey, that kid's kind of cool, like I want to be his friend. And reluctantly, over a lot of Luffy just being annoying and basically being attached at the hip to Ace and following him around everywhere, they eventually become friends, and they also have this other friend from the town, and his name is Sabo.
Yeah.
They undergo lots of trials and tribulations together. You eventually find out that Sabo's parents are they're nobles in the world, right? They're not celestial dragons.
Yeah, they're just kind of a higher ranked family than your average person, but not not celestial dragon level.
Right. And you eventually find out that there are celestial dragons visiting the town, and this was kind of I guess Ace and Luffy's first encounter with this sort of thing without really knowing it.
Right.
The celestial dragons come in, and Sabo has this other brother that's isn't he adopted, and he's just a real shitheel?
Yeah, I think so. There's some separation between. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember him being a bit of a dick.
Yeah, but his parents are basically raising this kid to actually be the son that they quote unquote didn't have, because Sabo's a little misfit running around with Luffy and Ace and not really wanting to take responsibility for the family and becoming superior to everyone else.
Right.
So we get to this point where these pirates pop up. They steal this treasure from Ace, Sabo, and Luffy that they were saving up so they could all become pirates together. The three end up going and attacking the Blue Jam pirates, and at some point they get basically a revenge on him, right? So they beat the crap out of Luffy, and then Sabo and Ace come to his rescue. But these guys aren't anyone to really fuck with. But they end up sort of turning him around and everything. You find out that they have this really trashy area of the island, and the Celestial Dragons, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, have hired these pirates to just demolish that, light it on fire, and this is where a lot of people live.
Yeah.
So they're just basically disposing of the trash outside that it just looks like crap and stuff. And pretty much what we lead into is that they're brothers. They shared their first glasses of sake together to really seal the deal and everything, even though they're 9-year-olds or whatever at this point.
Yeah.
We get to this point where Sabo decides, he's going to be the first to leave, because I think he was the oldest at this point. and he gets a little raft and he goes out to set sail, and at the same time the celestial dragons are leaving, and they fucking nuke his little fucking boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of gets to this point, like you find out, other than Luffy and Ace, there was another like brother. They had like a little triad going on here that they were all close together and they all made a promise. So now it's kind of like pointing out to us that Luffy's like the last one that has to keep up this promise. But it also kind of reminded him of how he met Ace and everything, and like the bonds that they all shared together.
Yeah, which is again, you're learning about a tragedy in their past. You're seeing the early motivations for them wanting to become pirates. So it was a good flashback, and of course the big mystery of why Ace's tattoo is misspelled with an X through it.
Oh yeah,
how he has A-S C X down C-E, and you think, okay, some dummy just didn't know how to spell Ace. But but now with this, you kind of learned that he was going to have Ace Sabo Luffy down his arm, ASL, and then after the loss of Sabo, I think he just marked it out and did Ace, is kind of change it. So to me that was always like funny seeing his arm like that, and then we get this like, oh, okay, that's what he was going for. And that's I thought that was real interesting.
That was Oda just putting that in there, and he's like, now I got to come up with a fucking whole backstory of why this is like this.
Right,
it's gonna make you cry.
Oh. Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, it's a fun little flashback, a good look into Luffy and Ace's history together, because you only ever heard us talk about, my brother Ace is great, we never really saw. So it took a tragedy for us to get that flashback, but that's kind of how we get flashbacks in One Piece, isn't
right?
it?
Right.
Yep.
And we also get those mountain bandits. I kind of glazed over them a little bit, but Dadan was like their big strong leader and everything, and that's the one that Garp basically had kind of in his pocket. They like kind of had this camaraderie thing, but also like always smarted off to each other and everything.
Right.
I believe Dadan was actually was the one that came and like saved them during this pirate attack and everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like she's sort of her, and then the girl at the bar, was her name Makino, kind of sort of became like the family to these three boys. Like they all knew them and everything.
Right. And is this when we first saw her with a child?
It might have been a cover story.
Yeah,
because I think it's like
I think
I don't know if they were confirmed or was it hella implied that might be Ace's kid.
Oh right.
Yeah,
I don't know, because Ace was just like really young then. But I mean,
he returned. He would have came back at some point, because he's a world traveler, even as a Whitebeard pirate. I think it's like implied, but never. I don't think we've gotten any confirmation whose kid that is.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, because she's basically the only time we ever see her nowadays is either in a cover story when they're like doing like the decks of the world, and then they show like every person that they all have attachments to, seeing their progress or something like that, or like in one of the interim arcs where it's like a world building thing. We'll see her for like a second.
Yeah. I couldn't remember, but I know that's at one point, like I said, she had a kid, and I don't know, in my memory, again, we watched every episode recently, right? But I always had, every time I see her again with the kid, I'm like, isn't that supposed to be like implied that that's Ace's, or I don't think Shanks, but somebody connected.
When you were mentioning it was actually a cover story that they had at one point,
right?
And it's one of those big mysteries of Oda putting the little seeds in there for the cover stories,
right?
So we have this just mass tragedy of Sabo dying, and then we kind of get back to Luffy, and his grief, and he's just like going just absolutely ham on this forest, just screaming and just having all these issues. And it's eventually Jinbei that runs in and kind of like takes some blows and stuff, and kind of tells him what do you have left? And he just kind of like stops for a second, and he kind of starts counting, and each time he counts a number, you see a different crew member. and he kind of comes to this realization, like he still has his crew,
Yeah.
and it's at that point that Rayleigh shows up, which, you know, just to like just show how much of a just ridiculous person Rayleigh is. He swam up to the island, and they're like, "Where the fuck did you come from?" He's like, "Oh, I was heading here from Sabati, but I got into a storm and my ship wrecked, so I had to swim the rest of the way." And they're like, "What the hell? Like, there's sea monsters and stuff in here."
Dude's a beast, man.
Yeah,
and he's the number 2 to Gold Roger. So like it just shows just like how much of a beast he is, and then how much of a beast Gold Roger must have been if this guy was his subordinate.
Oh yeah.
And I think I actually brought it up like a while back, that, you know, they kind of had this interesting system because he's Silver Rayleigh and he was the right hand man of Gold Roger.
Right.
So there was kind of this speculation that eventually we're going to get somebody or find somebody that had like copper in their name.
Right,
or bronze or something like that. So that would be kind of interesting to find out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you know, Jinbei gets Luffy calmed down. Rayleigh shows up, and Rayleigh basically comes up with this plan. Because Luffy's like, you know, geared. He's like, all right, I gotta go find my crew. We're gonna go to the New World and stuff like this. And Rayleigh talks him into like, you know, you're not ready. You need to train and stuff like this. So that's when they come up with this plan to go to Marineford, this like just, you know, marine base that they just had this entire event at, that like people would think that he's just absolutely insane to go back to. And he goes up there with like these humongous presences of Rayleigh and Jinbei. He makes this big scene and pretty much, you know, does like a prayer to Whitebeard and Ace and everything. But when he does that, you notice on his arm, he has the 3D 2Y, and the 3D part is marked out. And you find out like essentially why he did this was because, you know, they knew it would be such a big thing that he would get put in the papers. So all of a sudden you see like the rest of the crew, they're trying to get out there because they just found out that Ace died, and they're, you know, they know that Luffy's going to be in pain and everything like that. And they all start getting these papers, and then they're like, you know, realizing that slowly, except for Zoro, because he's really slow and it took him like forever. He was just kind of staring at it for a while. But, originally, whenever they got to Sabati and they split up, they said, all right, we'll meet back here in 3 days at the ship, and then we'll go on to the New World. So what his message is like, instead of meeting in 3 days, we're going to meet in 2 years.
Yeah.
And thus began the hiatus that I mentioned at the last part of the episode last time.
Yeah. Well, we are getting our official Shonen Jump tradition of a time skip.
A lot of people like to call this part One Piece Shippuden. It's very widely known as that.
I will fly personally to Seattle to meet you on the streets, and we're gonna have to have a showdown if you ever calling it that.
not everyone who lives in Washington lives in Seattle, Sean.
Doesn't matter.
From Little Rock.
It's all Seattle. It's all like there's only one city. True. You don't hear about shit else.
That's pretty much it. It's all like, if you look at the map, there's just Seattle, and then the rest of the state is just blacked out. There's nothing.
Look, I'm not trying to say me and Zoro have the exact same directional sense. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna find you. Jerry. All right. So yeah, we get the time skip. Yeah.
Yes. I think we see one more like relevant scene before we skip forward. You know, of course, we've got everybody who's got their new ways of training and everything now, and stuff that they're going to do. One of the things that we catch a glimpse at, and I think that this was just a cover story, it is Ace and Whitebeard's gravestones.
Yeah.
And like, you know, they've got these huge like monuments, and they've got their weapons and Whitebeard's coat and flag on top of it and everything. And there's just so many flowers and everything. We'll get back to that at some point if I remember. So we get back to Sabati. We find out that there was this island that Rayleigh had Luffy training on, and he was training him in the different styles of hockey. And it was mostly because the animals on this island were like really strong. So essentially, he's just going to have to fight to survive. Like, I think Boa Hancock was trying to sneak him food every once in a while, and they were like, "No, leave him alone. Like, he needs to do this on his own." And yeah, it was just this really kind of intense. Like, I think he was going to get attacked by something that like just really hit him like hard. The first time we saw him fighting it, and he just like gave it a look, and it just like passed out this time. Like, yeah, it was just
very reminiscent of Shanks in the first chapter, scaring off the sea monster.
Yeah, and we've kind of gotten that like time after time, of like them giving a look to something and then it getting kind of scared, because I think the same thing happened with was it like Moo or whatever, the big sea cow thing that Arlong and them had? Yeah. And I believe Luffy did that later on.
Yeah, like he had kind of, I think he'd done it. He had done some hockey like that. Like that's the Conqueror's hockey, unintentionally. Like he didn't know how to do it at will or anything. But I think by this point he had done it maybe a handful of times, just like not intending to do it.
Right,
knocking people out, stopping beef, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he and to a degree, Kobe did it in the Marineford arc.
Right. Yeah, and like Mike pointed out, I think it was maybe last episode before last, the last two episodes. We talked, or episode before last, we talked about Skypiea, and we talked about Water 7, and in Skypiea we saw our first kind of introduction to different types of hockey that they didn't really name, and then in Water 7. We had CP9 that did the same thing, had kind of the same attacks. So we were kind of already introduced to this before it was really introduced per se.
Oh yeah.
So essentially, the three different types was, oh man, I don't have translations on these. Kimbun Shoku hockey, which grants users a sixth sense. So essentially, they can predict people's movements and stuff like that.
I believe they call that observation hockey.
Observation hockey.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. There was Bosu Shoku hockey, which allows the user to use their own spiritual energy as armor to defend against attacks, as well as make their own attacks more potent. Which essentially means anytime that Luffy got hit by somebody and his, it just didn't bounce off and it was like a solid hit. Right. They were pretty much, it was the armor hockey, right?
Armament hockey.
Yeah. And then there was Haoshoku hockey, which grants the user the ability to overpower the will of others, which is, what you could do to like weaker opponents. We saw Shanks do this the first time he walked on Whitebeard's boat. He was just, exhuming his presence, and people were just passing the fuck out.
Right.
So we've had that a couple times. I think Rayleigh even used it in the the slave, the auction house. Yeah. So we kind of have these three new abilities that were introduced to Luffy that were like his things that he was supposed to learn. We also get whenever he's finally leaving the island, we find out that Rayleigh, actually left early. We I also don't think that we mentioned, but Sanji ended up being on the same island that Ivankov rules. So that was kind of great. I think that was the only one we didn't touch on because we touched on everybody before we got to Ivankov and didn't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
Right.
So the reunion at Sabati. We get reintroduced to all of our favorite pirate crew in general, right?
Of course.
Just how amazing, like, everybody's changed. They've all got new looks, new outfits, new costumes. I'm sure we could go into that.
Well, actually, I do want to ask y'all though about those. We'll get a little bit into the fashion. Is there anyone like like everyone got some new looks. Some for me, some for the better, some for the worse. Is there like who's do y'all like the best? The new look. Who do you think had the best new look out of the crew?
Some that didn't change at all, like Sanji.
Sir, Sanji parted his hair the other way. Thank you.
And and the goatee.
And the goatee. Okay. His was minimal. Like for me, I think Zoro is looking the cleanest. His new kind of like modern kimono kind of style to him. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think Luffy to me is the best looking of like I think his fits the best. I mean, he's sporting the giant scar on his chest that he got from Akainu during the Marineford arc. I love his open jacket and like the different jean shorts that he has on now with like the big fluffy parts on the bottom.
Right. His is great. Like he got the more kind of flashier Buccaneer-esque shirt with the like you said, the open shirt and the yellow sash is really nice. But and like I said, does Robin and Nami decide to show way more boobage, which never gonna get mad about, but
defying the laws of physics as we know it.
But not anime physics. They're perfectly in line with anime physics.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I hate Brooke's new look.
Oh, wow.
See, that's not where I thought you were going.
I don't like personally his flower pants. I miss his original look was just so sleek and good, and I've not been. He's now since changed his looks over to different arcs, but like this initial appearance, it was really the pants. I think really 'cause he still has his black jacket with the blue, and just some Flower Child bell bottoms. And I get the Soul King thing. But that's probably my least favorite look out of the crew.
Oh, see now, for me, they done my boy Frankie dirty. I just his was the I think the biggest turnoff for me at first. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, I understood that he put like more stuff into him, so it's much bigger. He's a different Battle Frankie. But the fact that they shaved his head, they took away his pompadour. Yeah, but then I do like later on though that he realized real fast that was the wrong thing to do. So now it's a recurring gag that every arc from then he has a different hairstyle.
Right.
And then but mostly sticking with the pompadour again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, whenever he changed his hair to look like a fucking gun, that was all I needed. I was like, okay.
Or is it? Wasn't there one where it was a gun and also didn't he turn it into like a Hercules beetle at some point?
Yeah. The stag beetle. That was just...
which is great. And don't get it wrong, they've all grown on me as far as their appearances. But like I said, I still can't forgive that Brooke redesign because Chopper's hat I didn't like at first, but it grew on me too.
Well, see now I like Chopper's like other forms the way that they've changed. Yes. Like I love his horn point. No, not the horn point. The one was that he's a full deer. I love that because that's how you can tell that he actually grew. Like he's like a full grown deer now instead of like a baby deer.
Right. But that's getting into But then into his powers how Kung Fu Point. You just gotta love Kung Fu Point.
Oh yeah. Oh absolutely.
and I mean you can't leave out Usopp. Usopp got a pretty I really like his redesign. He's got Absolutely. Like the headphones going on. He's kind of got like a poofy pant. Like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I was very, 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 very disappointed that we didn't get an updated Soga King look since he spent all of his time with the fucking Hercules beetle like superhero. Because I thought that's where we were going with it.
Hey, I'm still putting I'm calling it here, and like Oda, I'm gonna say it now. Or actually, I said it back then when this debuted, and I'm waiting for hundreds of chapters later when I'm right. We haven't seen a Soga King update yet. I think it's a trump card. I think it's a trump card. Much like I'm still also putting in that fan prediction that Zoro's gonna open that fucking eye one day. Because now he has that closed eye with the slash over it. I'm in that camp of he got a Mihawk eye under there, but we don't know. Even now, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's been a theory since day one when they introduced the arcs and all the new looks and all that, and people go, oh, he's definitely gonna open that eye at some point.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Mihawk's really like not shit. He just stole the eyes of somebody who really was and that's where all of his power comes from.
Well, he's got
Right.
the Sharingan eye since you wanted to bring up Naruto earlier. We'll just go ahead and
It
say
works,
he's
yeah.
got the Sharingan eye in there. He has Kakashi's eye in there, underneath there. But Zoro came back with one less eye to our knowledge. He lost an eye
Mhm.
training with Mihawk and those apes. And we
Mhm.
got Nami, who I love how to defend her new her bikini top fashion design. Later on, we'll get to that. Someone judging her for looking like a harlot. Well, Robin, like I said, they're both they got updated a little fashion. Kind of like Robin kind of changed her look over the course of the arcs anyway. But
Right, yeah.
But definitely came out with a nice. I like her new design. Cleavage aside, it's also just a nice it fit with her. Like Nami's rocking just basically pants and a bikini top. There's not a whole lot to her new,
Right.
and she grew her hair out. So
Yeah.
some good looks. But yeah, overall. But then we get into their new abilities. So like we already covered kind
Yeah.
of Chopper stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for this little arc, we only see a little bit of that. We get Luffy rolling in. Boa Hancock gave him a fuck ton, like a huge bag of food and a little
Right.
disguise.
Oh, I
That's
forgot
essentially
about that.
like, yeah,
Oh
yeah, the disguise. So he's got like these pair of glasses and like a nose on or whatever, like it's
And
like
a
the
giant
gag,
mustache
glasses.
too.
Yeah, and a
And,
giant mustache.
And I actually remember it now. Like, remember the first ACON I went to, someone was cosplaying that.
Yeah,
That she had
yeah,
the
it
giant
was so-
backpack and everything.
That's
It was really
perfect.
impressive.
Yeah, yeah, it was wonderful. So as Luffy, walks around pretty aloof, and everybody else is kind of slowly like meeting up. I kind of like their little game that they had where like Sanji was making it a competition of like what order they come back in or whatever.
Oh.
I think he gets to the point where before we even see Zoro, he's like, oh, where's he at? And they said something about the docks, and he goes to the docks, and some guy's like, oh, that guy was just sleeping on that ship, and then all of a sudden you see the ship come up, and it's just sliced in half. And Zoro's like, motherfucker's trying to take me under the water. That's not even like my ship, blah, blah, blah. He just like fell asleep and got pissed off and just destroyed these people's ship. It's like, all right. So yeah, Zoro's great now.
Right.
But we get to this thing where Luffy's like, oh, I'm gonna meet up with people. We know that there's some kind of like stuff going on because the Navy's like moving around, and they're like, oh, this is when the Straw Hats are supposed to meet back up, right? So Luffy ends up running into quote unquote Straw Hats, and they end up being these pretenders that are like claiming to be the Straw Hats to gain fame and like people following them. And it just kind of turns into this hilarious gag where like they all like just look so funky, and I think like Chopper's a fox like with a hat on, and it's just amazing. And like so they're sporting all of like the Straw Hats' old looks, and the best part about it is if you watch the anime, is they swapped everyone's voices,
Right.
and it was just
It
so
was perfect.
yeah,
It's
so
hilarious.
well done.
It could be looked at as like a commentary on bad cosplay. You know what I mean? Because like, I've been tempted to try and pull that together for a group cosplay of just doing the fake Straw Hats. Because like, especially I could rock Luffy because the dude was a big guy, had a big old belly, and like a straw hat, but it's not quite right. You know what I mean? And it's just like those little details, just how off they all looked. And if I remember right, like wasn't Zoro rocking like his fake? I was rocking like some booty shorts, and it's like,
man,
yeah, like
it was all weird.
They're hilarious. So I mean, the fake Straw Hats are classic. Look that up if y'all hadn't seen that.
Seriously.
But it's some good stuff, and but yeah, we get kind of like seeing what like some people try to take advantage of the Straw Hats being missing this long and reap their infamy, I guess, and that gets squashed pretty quick when the real ones show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we essentially get these Fakos. We find out that there are all these other pirates that had joined them, and some of them had just kind of basically joined them because they were going to, overpower them or whatever, or kind of wanted a shot at them,
Right.
And I think that's like when Luffy first uses his whole ability to knock a bunch of them out, and the Marines show up in force, and then you start to find out like, oh shit, like the other Straw Hats are starting to show up now, like the real deals and stuff, and like these fake ones just don't stand a chance. But like you get introduced to these other two characters that like were in the crew but not in the crew, and I'm trying to remember their names right now, but it was just like just too ridiculous. One of them was like some kind of weird muck person.
Oh, Caribou and Coraboo.
Oh,
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the two brothers. Like one would just kill people with a shovel, and one would turn into muck. But essentially, they were trying to like bury people alive and stuff. Like it was just this just silly, ridiculous thing.
Right.
And I think he like tried that. Didn't he try it on Luffy? And Luffy just kind of like hit him with hockey. I can't remember how that part ended up.
Yeah, I mean, I fairly remember them making pretty short work of them. However he did it, I remember it being pretty quick.
Yeah. So one of the other things that we get is we mentioned I'm pretty sure hopefully we mentioned before the time skip there were these big things called pacifistas that were modeled after Kuma,
Yeah.
the warlord of the sea, and they were just wreaking all kinds of havoc. And this is basically like the military's secret weapon designed by Dr. Vegapunk. Where they're basically supposed to be like mimicking sort of Kuma's power, but they also have like scary laser beams. So
Yeah,
when Frankie,
they have Kizaru's lasers, like
Yes.
the admiral who's made of light. So it's basically they're like light beams, kind of like shooting out of them.
yeah, so we had this whole struggle with these things, and they pop up and like fucking the Straw Hats just absolutely decimate them now. Like
Right.
just in a show of power, because they all had to band together to beat one before, and Zoro and Sanji just absolutely just decimate this thing. And they have another interesting moment in it where Frankie is basically telling of whenever he got back to the ship, and there was apparently one that was set there to guard the ship. And it was all beat up and destroyed and everything because of all the people that were trying to go and fuck with the Thousand Sunny. So it was kind of interesting, and it was like the last wish of Kuma, because we found out that he was undergoing like some kind of experiments, and he wasn't going to have his mind or something like that, right?
Yeah, but basically every time we see him, we find out at some point that every time we see him, he's having less and less of his humanity with him. And if I remember correctly, wasn't it actually Kuma who was waiting at the ship guarding it? Right, that was like his last act as like a free thinking person before he got turned into a full android.
Yeah,
that was like
Kuma himself. Yeah, not just a pacifista.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we kind of go through this thing. The flying fish people that are led by Duvall help everybody get back together and get to the ship. They're as in pure Straw Hat fashion, they're running away from the Marines to get to their next place, so they're being rushed off.
Right.
Luffy looks back at Rayleigh and basically thanks him. We had a scene with Brook whenever he we finally get to see him for the first time, and apparently he's like a big shot, like superstar, who's playing a huge concert, and he does this some kind of move, like, and it's like a really cool scene, right? They have like a full on like music video almost for it whenever he starts playing. So he knocks out like everybody, like just makes them pass out. And Chopper, helps a few other people by the route of the big, huge birds that were on the island that he was on. And everybody just is pretty much meeting back up. They're getting all of their old friends and stuff that were on the island that they met are kind of like doing their best to fend off the Marines so they can get under the coating that covers the boat ends up, bubbling up, and you find out that that's how they go under the water.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, it's just this really cool scene. You just have this this introduction to all these characters. Heracles shows up. I don't even remember that. So that's pretty cool. Verona was showing up to help them at all, or help them as well. Oh my god. It's not the rum, I promise. I'm just really dumb.
I assumed it was the rum.
So anyway, we have heard reports up until this point of something being down, like stopping people from getting to Fishman Island, which is their next stop. So you essentially go Sabati, Fishman Island, and that's whenever you get under the red line, and then you come up from the New World.
Right.
They find out that there's this fucking giant kraken, just in the bottom of the ocean, just lying in wait for them. Which is a big issue if you're going that way.
Right.
And it's a big deal, right? Like, it totally just destroys their boat, and that's the end of their whole voyage. So unfortunately, that's the end of One Piece. No. They get to this thing, and I think it's like one of the first times we see one of Luffy's new attacks. Am I right? Like, with him using haki.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. My thing's like just spinning here, so I'm having to.
Yeah, because he did gear third with armament hockey on to knock him out. So at this point, this is the first time I think that we see hockey as, like the coating hockey. Like, whenever we see it now, people's body parts get coated in like a black look, so it almost looks shiny. It's like,
right.
At some point, up to this point, I guess it was just implied that we just couldn't see it, or they couldn't perceive it. But now that they know what it is, they now can perceive what this is. So, like, everyone, like I said, it almost looks like metallic.
Yeah, It's pretty cool. It's like kind of like this like coating of natural armor from this of their own will, basically, and then which leads to some really cool stuff down the line, especially with Luffy.
Yeah. And one of the kind of interesting things that I spaced on, because it's been a million years since I watched this arc, and I only really watched it once, is so that other pirate crew with Caribou and his people, they get on their boat, and they're basically going after Luffy and them. And you fucking find out that their boat is like being pulled by Momu, the sea cow.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. Nice. So, it ends up swimming away from them in terror, towing the ship with them. And Caribou actually made it onto the Sunny, and I think like. He was like, he jumped on their ship and he's like, let's get him, guys, and he looks over and the ship's going the other direction. So that's whenever Frankie just stuffs him into a barrel and nails it down. Pretty great stuff, because they're like, oh, Caribou, this guy's scary, he's made of mud or quicksand or something, I don't know. It's he was trying to like try to deceive them or something like that. So they get to this kraken, and essentially just waylay it. Luffy just gear thirds, and then goes into the armament haki, and Sanji even uses a move, and Zoro cuts it up as well. And they make fucking short work of this thing, and ended up making it to the bottom of the ocean. And when they get to Fishman Island, like, it is really dope, right? They see we see the Flying Dutchman for the first time, which is kind of terrifying. You have a ship that is just in the water, just kind of moving forward, which is okay for them, because they have lots of just Fishman on there. So we also see Wadatsumi, who is like, he's like a giant like puffer fish, right? Fishman.
Yeah, he's a pufferfish, but it's a giant size, so he's humongous.
Right. And I think Wadatsumi and the Kraken kind of get into a fight. And they end up they end up getting to Fishman Island. Do they all split up at the beginning of this? I feel like something happened.
I think once they actually get there, maybe. Like, I'll be perfectly honest. Like, obviously, we were hyped for all the first new island after the time skip. There's very little I honestly remember about this arc. I'm very rusty on like some of the greater
I
details.
I remember a lot of like the major points of it, but I don't remember like all like the little details and all that.
So yeah, I mean, if that's all we can hit, that's all we can hit. We can just get to like kind of like the important.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get down there and like isn't this where we run into the what do they call it? The sunfish? They're the Jinbei's crew, right?
The Sun Pirates.
The Sun Pirates. Yeah, like we encountered them. We have the shark fortune teller. I remember her and her prophecies going on.
Shaki?
Yeah, a hot shark lady.
Charlie.
Charlie. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of like I'm trying to remember some of the fights. Like there was like a poison fish. I think he was a swordsman.
Mm-hmm.
He was a octopus kind of thingy.
An
that
octopus.
Zoro fought.
That's right. And then we had I just remember like there was some kind of like camouflaged fish or something. Maybe I'm thinking like again I'm going blank on it, but
well, it doesn't matter who they were because they were just basically roadblocks in the path of
it really
of
was,
the one,
and I think that's why.
Yeah,
because
the whole arc was really just a showcase of like this is how cool the Straw Hats are. These are all their new powers,
right?
And they were just basically fodder for us to for a showcase of new stuff. That was really cool.
Who was the leader though? I'm trying to remember his name.
Hody Jones.
Hody Jones. I remember liking that name at least. But yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He was basically he was basically Arlong Jr.
Right. And I think it's like kind of like I mean we all love One Piece, but not every arc's gonna hit as hard as the others. And to me, this is one of the ones that were just kind of like. I remember enjoying it, of course, while it was happening, but it's not one I've ever really gone back and thought about again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like the major points that really matter is Jinbei officially getting the official invitation to the crew, though he has to do some stuff first. The whole, I mean, there's a lot of thematical stuff about like racism and all that because the fishmen in the One Piece story are really they're round up as slaves. They're treated like second class citizens and all that. And there's a whole flashback of the previous queen who's trying to bridge the gap between humans and fishmen and all that. And they get to like this point where it's almost going to happen, and then you find out. I think it was Hody Jones was the one who behind the scenes he thought that the fishman should be supreme, so he ends up just killing her and blaming the humans on it to stir up more drama and all that. So I mean, and then what the great part of Jinbei getting the invitation is not only is he Luffy's friend and has all these connections, but he needs a blood transfusion, and Luffy, without even hesitating, says, "You can use mine, and just I don't care if you're a fisherman or not. You're my friend, and you need help," kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a sort of a flashback to Fisher Tiger, right? Because he was the one that freed a bunch of slaves. They had the little girl with them, and when Fisher Tiger was basically
Koala,
when Fisher Tiger was essentially like dying, nobody would help him because they called him a dirty fish man and all this stuff, and it was just kind of like this sort of like sad point where you're and we'd already gotten a taste of this with Sabaody the auction house and everything. So we
Right.
kind of see in like, you know, the whole thing of the queen at the time was like, we need to bring into the world government and, you know, get a foothold in. So, you know, these people will stop basically shitting all over us. Like it's because they just treat him as like less than human and everything from everything that we've seen, but also everything that we've seen from the celestial dragons and everything is like, they don't really care about all that like fairness or anything.
Right.
They're just basically there to like use people and live their best life and everything, and just whatever they want is theirs. So yeah, we have this this whole thing with Brooke and Fisher Tiger, and they have this really just traumatic moment where you know, Fisher Tiger is they saved this girl, and I think they even showed like a brief scene of him freeing like Boa Hancock and her sisters and everything.
Yep.
But this little girl just, you know, she's so like her mind is so warped from just, you know, serving and being a slave and everything, that I believe Fisher Tiger, like, just because their symbol that they have was actually the slave symbol that they were branded with, but they branded over it and it made a sun.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what he ended up doing to this little girl, you know, basically to set her free. And then it was kind of a thing after that of like, she Fisher Tiger brought her back to her island. And you know, the crew had grown attached to her at this point and were kind of sad to see her go. But like the island called the Marines because of their fear of other, you know, outside races and stuff like that, their xenophobia. And that's when he essentially like gets into this big fight. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Kizaru shows up and he's the one that ends up finishing him, right?
Yes. Yeah. But that was before he was the vice admiral, so he was using his real name Borsellino versus Kizaru.
Yeah. So yeah, they just kind of get to this standstill, and it just puts like this worst taste in like all the Fishman pirate or the Sun pirate's mouth, and they're basically split because, you know, they also introduced like that Arlong was on this crew and everything, and Arlong was one of the ones that, like, you know, humans are never going to change. I hate them as much as they hate me, and all this stuff. And we get a couple of the other Sun pirates that are basically on Jinbei's side that are like, you know, where the queen's at, believing that, and they have that whole arc with the queen about them trying to get into the big assembly and everything, so they can become an official kingdom and everything, to try to stop, you know, everything that's going on with the celestial dragons and their people. So like, you know, they introduce the daughter, her daughter. Let's see, it was Queen Odahime. Was the queen's name, and I'm trying to look for the
Shirahoshi.
Shirahoshi, right?
Yep.
And of course, as fate has it, you know, because Luffy ends up making friends and meeting all of these people of royalty and just making waves in the world. He ended up being the one that met Shirahoshi, talked her out of getting, you know, out of her comfort zone and everything like that, and essentially protecting her, and like through him basically forcing her out of her shell and you know, protecting her and everything, it's made her realize what she, you know, really wanted to do, and she wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps and everything. And it was kind of a thing of like with King Neptune, he was always worried and wanting to keep her locked up and locked away and everything, because he didn't want the same things that happened to her happen to you know, her mom and everything. So she kind of gets this new purpose of that's where she wants to be. She wants to kind of take over her mother's legacy and everything. Whereas you have Horty Jones and Vanderdecken that are like pretty much against it. And it's so then you have this really interesting fight where you have they have this was it the ship called Noah that they had that they were going to use to destroy Fishman Island, I believe.
That was when they got floating up, and then they were come have like a sun crashing down into Fishman Island.
Yeah. So Vanderdecken has this ability where he can essentially touch somebody with one of his hands, and then anything that he touches, like a weapon or anything like that, he can send it flying directly to that person. So he has one hand that's always gloved, and it's Shirahoshi is the last person that he touched with it. So what he did is he touched Noah, so the whole ship would come and crash down. And after this long, arduous fight with Horty Jones and everything, under the water, he's covered in like bubble armor. But I think the ship also had a bubble around it too. He finally knocks him out and basically like spends the rest of this time just like using his abilities to destroy it and punch the shit out of this ship.
Right.
And at that time, you have all these new face-offs with the Straw Hats and all of these fisherman pirates, which of course don't stand the chance. They're, like I said, they're just little stepping stones in the path of these pirates. But you get a lot of really cool abilities from everybody. You find out that Sanji actually learned the airwalk, like CP9 had.
Right.
You get Usopp. So the big thing about the island that he was on was all of the carnivorous vegetation. So he has now all of these like seeds that he'll shoot out, and they do different abilities and stuff like that, and basically really big like support tool for him. You have Chopper, who can now what is it up to? He doesn't need Rumble Balls to change into his forms, but he uses them to change into his gigantic form,
right.
which his monster point, which he can control now, which was a great like introduction to
Yeah.
that, right?
Oh yeah.
Then of course you have Luffy and some of his new abilities. You get Zoro and his I can't remember what the amounts were, but he had his different pound attacks, and they're all like multiplied now, like exponentially. So like
Right.
he's causing so much more havoc and damage with that. Robin can now combine her power. So if like she's making an arm, she combines a bunch of small arms and makes like a giant arm and does like a giant slap.
Right.
Which was a really cool thing that she could do now.
Yeah, it's definitely a good power up for.
Go
Sorry, just gonna say for Robin,
Yeah.
who has her ability was cool beforehand, but kind of like was left of just making arms kind of pop out and kind of holding people in place, locking them down. To now, like you said, like giant hands and feet, and just making like her giant appendages basically whooping people's asses is like.
Yeah.
It was a good power up for someone who I think like always useful to the crew, but I think that out of a lot of them, like she really stepped up in that level too, which I liked.
Yeah, just absolutely devastating now. Nami's climb attack was like super upgraded by the weather wizards of Weatheria. So now she's got
that name makes me laugh.
yeah, Adam. But she's got a greater master over just creating like certain types of weather, and then her illusions and all that stuff, which is just great. My favorite out of all of them, and you guys were talking about his design and everything, fucking Frankie.
Yeah.
So it starts off right, and Frankie's like, "Oh, I've added things to this docking system." We find out, a while back that Frankie made a docking system to the Thousand Sunny where he can do a switch on the wheel, and it'll open up a side of the ship, and he has different things. Like one of the things was the little mini Mary that Nami got from Skypiea. It was like a little like kind of like a little jet ski or something like that. That was powered by dials.
Right.
He kind of upgraded it to look like the Going Merry a little bit. And then they have a little paddle boat that they can use to go get stuff on. This motherfucker made a Rhino tank and I think it was a Beetle motorcycle, or was it a Rhino motorcycle?
Yes.
And and it was like I can't even remember what the tank was. It looks so bizarre.
The Brachio Tank 5.
Brachio Tank 5. That's right. so he had these things, and Chopper became General Chopper and started driving the tank with Usopp as basically his sniper for the gun. And Frankie was driving around on the motorcycle. And then he was like, but wait, there's more. And he was like, you guys get out of that. And he switched it to a docking mode. And they came apart and combined into a giant fucking robot. Which is one of my proudest moments in the series.
Love it.
It was just so amazing and just so out there. And so he officially has this huge Emperor Frankie, which I think is like, you know, it was kind of like foreshadowing when they were at Thriller Bark and they did the combination thing,
Right.
and everything. And he was like, yeah, this, but way better.
Yeah,
I actually bought
is great.
Yeah, I actually bought the Shogoken like metal build of that thing, and it is like one of the best things ever. It's so great, and it's funny because so he's got all these attacks, and they're just bananas. Like he has this giant sword, but the main attack that he does is he puts it close to the ground and just spins around in circles. He has his big like disaster beam or whatever, and essentially all it is him opening up the cockpit and shooting a beam from himself. It was kind of awesome. It was fantastic. Yeah. No, he was. It was definitely one of my favorite moments whenever we got back. And then you also get Brook, who, you know, learns more about his devil fruit, learns to master it more, and can actually like leave his body and turn into a soul. And so that was a pretty cool revelation, and it kind of opened up a lot of doors for what they could do. And then of course, you know, he has all of his special attacks that he can do with his music by like putting people asleep and like making them think that they're in a wonderland and stuff like that. It's just all around really cool. I kind of liked the thing with him having a guitar instead of a violin now, even though like, you know, the classical music was really cool, but I love all of the applications that they can do with a fucking fish guitar.
Oh yeah, and like so the guitar thing's cool, but he still has like his sword attacks, and like I don't remember if they ever really explained it, but he's got like ice sword abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think it's sort of like I guess because he is dead, that like it drains the heat from people and all that. But yeah, like his element is ice for the most part.
Yeah, I don't
know. Like I was like, Zoro's is wind,
right,
almost with his pound attacks, and Brook is ice.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we ever touched on that because he could do that beforehand, but now he got even like stronger on that. So it's always like it was a cool thing, but I was always kind of like I didn't really remember if they ever kind of explained it, or I guess that makes sense. So how like you always say when you're around ghosts, the rooms get colder. I guess so. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Well, I think what really was a big detriment to it was the fact that we just got Brook as a crew member, and then things went to shit. like I remember thinking like we really didn't get a whole lot of development on Brook because right after Thriller Bark it goes right into you know when they get separated, so like we really didn't get a whole lot with them, unfortunately.
Well, that's true. It's true.
Yeah. So like we get all these fights. Luffy ends up just essentially you know saving the entire island from being destroyed by these two fishmen. We also get I think our first little glimpse at was it the poneglyph? Was it one of the road poneglyphs, or it was just one of the standard ones that told us about it?
I think it was just one of the standard ones because this is what I wanted to bring up as we got to this point it was the apology note from this character Joy Boy, who is this mysterious figure that has a lot to do with that Void Century that happened, you know, like almost like 1,000 years ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically he was saying that he couldn't fulfill the promise because the whole point of Noah was that it was going to be the ship that was going to help raise the fishermen up to the surface. Mm-hmm. Something happened. He had to break that promise, and that's why Noah was sitting on the bottom waiting for the next time, this future person to help raise it up and all that.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like an interesting premonition. And then they also bring up one of the ancient weapons as well, right?
Yes, yeah. Then we find out that about Poseidon. Like we found out that Uranus was this giant ship that was going to be built, and that Poseidon was this other weapon, quote unquote, that could control the sea creatures, who were basically, to everyone else, were just doing their own thing and like couldn't be tamed.
Right. And we actually find out about Poseidon at the towards the end of the arc, right? Because
Yeah.
I think they actually come in and lend a helping hand with Noah, and it ends up actually being Shirahoshi, that ends up being Poseidon. Like, she can speak to the these just behemoth sized sea creatures and everything. And it's, I don't know, it was just kind of a huge thing. Like, man, like, she has this ability. Like, seriously.
Yeah. Well, and also we got a hint more at like how reminiscent Luffy is of these past figures, because as is happening, you hear the sea creatures talking to themselves, that like he can hear them, like he has the he can hear the voice of things, which is
Right.
a little ominous, but they don't really touch upon it after that.
Yeah. And I actually forgot to mention, it was a really I don't know, kind of touching moment in this fight with Hody Jones. Luffy's last attack that he did on him was the Gumu Gumu no Red Hawk,
Yeah.
which was a basically him going gear second and doing color armament, and he hits him so hard that it kind of ignites, and it's kind of like his little tribute to Ace, in a way.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that was an epic moment for it right there.
I love that punch. That is one of my favorite of his new attacks.
Yeah. It's just a was a great, just kind of ending to it. We find out that this whole time, Hody Jones, we see him munching on stuff occasionally, and we find out that he was getting some kind of medicine or something to make himself stronger, right?
Yeah, basically juicing up.
Yeah, but it has a side effect, and we find out that all the people that were like taking it ended up aging like exponentially after this, whenever they were in captivity.
Yep.
And caught by everybody. We also, I cannot remember the character's name. Saved my life. I apologize. But we met Frankie's mentor's brother during this arc too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm blanking.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
So yeah, it was kind of this interesting thing, other than the big stepping stone fight sort of thing that we have. We get all this this stuff with finding out about the poneglyph stone that was there. We talked to Madam Shirley, who actually kind of foretold of like some kind of premonition that she had about Luffy destroying the Fishman Island, which is kind of ominous, but like can have multiple meanings, as fortunes normally do. We get Frankie meeting his mentor's brother, which was kind of a thing, because they're like basically family already.
It's his name is Den.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for $1 million, I wouldn't be able to pull that without looking it up.
Right. Yeah. So I think meanwhile all this is going on, there was a sweets factory that was in Fishman Island that was damaged, and actually I think the Straw Hats ended up being, anyway, it was our first introduction to Peckham's and Tamago, right? Two very, very interesting characters. I think it was Tamago was he's basically shaped like an egg, and I think he has a lower half of an egg, and he's just got really long, slender legs.
Yep.
And then the other person who I
Peckham.
just lost my
Peckham's is a lion who ate he ate a turtle fruit.
Right. So they're basically here to collect because since there's no sun pirates in on Fishman Island anymore, they're basically, you've come to find out that a lot of the New World islands are kind of like secured by the 4 emperors in the New World, and this one is secured by Big Mom. So them not having the candy and the treats, because you find out that Big Mom is a bit of a glutton, that they're in trouble. So what they decide to do is to send her like all their riches and everything. And it kind of like leads to some stuff like a little on down the road. I think Jinbei was supposed to be like kind of her like side avatar or whatever in Fishman Island. Like he's supposed to be like, you know, her, you know, just voice to help protect the kingdom,
Right.
and everything. They essentially were getting like just a raw deal of everything.
Right.
It kind of I don't know. It was a really interesting thing. Luffy swipes the phone and just gets kind of pissed over hearing everything, and that's whenever he offers the treasure in exchange for overlooking the lack of sweets or whatever that they're not going to have. Because apparently, and this is another thing that they just mentioned, a bunch of her ships were destroyed by none other than Captain Kidd. So they actually needed the money, so that was kind of an okay deal for them. We also kind of get an aside that's like, there was this treasure, this national treasure that we had, and it was booby trapped. And it kind of got sent to Big Ma'am, so that's going to come back to slap us in the face later, probably, right?
No, never.
Never. Not at all.
And the whole reason why Fishman Island was basically being taken over by Big Mom is because Whitebeard was the previous person. So basically, when Whitebeard died, these other emperors were basically setting out to take over all of his islands that he sort of left behind during this time. We get another little scene from Caribou popping out, and Peckham's basically just destroying him. And like Peckham also has a turtle shell, which I don't know if that was ever like, is he a lion person that like ate a turtle fruit or something like that?
Yeah, I had to actually double check that. He is a minkman who's a lion, but he ate the kami, the turtle fruit.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because he isn't he the official first mink that we see?
I think identified as a mink because Beppo is the first one.
Right, but I never knew if Beppo was like officially, you know, classified as a mink, but I know Peckham's is the first one who says it, that he is a mink man.
Yeah, I think that's where I think, like, other than seeing the because like we were all speculating about Beppo beforehand, all the way back at the auction house, but someone had mentioned that you could see a list of the different races up for it, and minkmen are listed on there, and everyone kind of was speculating that's the animal people, and then we think that's what Beppo was. But, But until Peakums, I don't think they ever really confirmed that minkmen are talking animal people.
Right, yeah.
Another interesting thing that we get, so if you remember right, whenever we first entered the Grand Line, the old man at the lighthouse gave them what's called a logpass, and it was essentially their compass for navigating the Grand Line from the beginning. You know, they had to go onto an island, wait for its magnetic field to adjust to the compass, and then it would show them where their next island is. Well, they get a new one, the logpass in this, and it actually has 3 different compasses, like 3 different needles. and you basically have to make your own way into the new world. And it's just real great because, you know, the more turbulent one is, like the more turbulent the island is magnetic's force is going to be, and like, you know, the more interesting this island's probably going to be. We also had some, you know, introductions back to Hachi and Cammy, and then Cammy's friend Papag, which was like a designer and stuff. Very interesting stuff. I actually had a Crimin t-shirt at one point that was like white and black design, or black and purple design.
Yeah, I remember.
It was it was one of my favorite pieces of One Piece swag that nobody really knew about unless they really knew about it. So I felt like I was in a special club. So anyway, they get their new compass, and they're setting out into the new world. And you know, they kind of have this like the fishmen have this sort of renewed like, oh, you know, there are humans that we can trust and everything, that aren't out to get us, and not all humans are bad. And like I said, the princess has like this new like thing where she's wanting to follow in her mother's footsteps, and you know, get them back on track for joining the world government and everything. And you know, we kind of get some interesting stuff with that and some of the other royalty in the world. So they're basically, they hit this this point of the ocean when they're going through it, and it's kind of cool because they see all these like fish and stuff. I think we kind of have like a hilarious scene where Luffy goes to catch one, but it's like so huge that it's like holding the ship down or something like that. So they make him let it go. But the really nice, touching one that I really like is you get all these whales, right, that are essentially the same type of species as the Laboon was.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that. Yeah. That was kind of awesome. Just any throwback to Laboon. I miss Laboon.
Yeah. So it was just really cool. You know, you get this heart-filled moment with everybody, just kind of like having this neat like reunion, sort of like with like Laboon, like they're probably Laboon's family, and Brooks like playing a song, and the whales are like really digging it and everything, and they basically like, you know, help them get to the surface and everything like that.
That is one of the coolest scenes for that, where they pop out of the water and they're so tiny, and these huge whales are surrounding them, and there's lightning going off, and there's you know, fire going on in the background, and just showing how turbulent like this new part of the ocean is.
Yeah, like the new, like I think they even mentioned that the Grand Line was kind of like the rookie sea, and like the new world was like the strongest sea.
Right. Which just, like kind of like I remember when we really kind of realized that watching it, you're like, huh. So basically, all we just been through, all 500 something chapters, is the tutorial level for the real game. It was kicking
basically,
out. Like it's like shit's about to get like real, and it's not an exaggeration. Like, especially like the next island they hit is like, I absolutely love this one.
So as soon as they, I'll just kind of read off of this wiki real quick. Upon finally entering the new world, the Straw Hat Pirates immediately receive a distress call from a group of people on an island called Punk Hazard, stating that they are being attacked by a samurai without hesitation. Luffy sets out to the blazing island with Vice Admiral Smoker hot on his tail. On this supposedly death-ridden and empty island, the Straw Hats soon learned that they are not alone, meeting many new and old foes as they explore the purpose of the island. Punk Hazard is made up of a frozen and a burning side. The island also contains the abandoned research laboratories of Dr. Vegapunk. Punk Hazard is the first island the Straw Hats encounter in the New World. So honestly, if I wouldn't have read that, I would have completely fucking forgot that Smoker and Tashigi were in this arc.
Oh, I would not have let you forget that, because
Well,
Yeah.
and then do we remember why this island is half frozen, half on fire constantly?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's basically during the 2 years, Aokiji and Akainu fought to see who was going to be the new fleet admiral, and basically had like an Ace Blackbeard style fight where the island just exploded into one half frozen, one half on fire.
They
And-
were so powerful when they were fighting that they changed the entire fucking climate of this island.
Which just shows like the levels of a vice admiral like that, or admirals. I mean, and
Admiral, yeah.
what also was cool is was it Strong World or Film Z where we actually got to see the aftermath.
It was Film Z.
Film Z where we actually run
Yeah.
into
Aokiji
And
in
you
the
see-
hot bath. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see he's like he loses like an arm and a leg in that battle.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, or at
Because he
least-
has to make them out of ice.
Ice, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And they haven't touched on that battle in the actual like series. So like cutting in a movie and making it canon and showing something an after effect of something we've only been kind of told about in this arc, and we don't even get to see it. Kind of makes me a little sad.
And it's kind of interesting, right? Because we only get like little vague hints at who won on that, but
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, at the very end of this arc, Aokiji basically comes in to help the Marines kind of escape this island. If I'm remembering that correctly. So it was kind of like the first little scene that we saw with him in it and everything.
Oh yeah. But yeah, you said
but-
like you forgot about Smoker and Tashigi. How dare you, sir?
I know. I just remembered why I should have remembered them.
Like, not only are like this also like I like both characters. Tashigi immediately just because of her run-in with Zoro and him accusing her of stealing his old friend's face, his friend that died face, and just like her obsession with the swords. Like, okay, I'm digging this chick. But then like we get them years later, and they're like I think now like I know like they both got ranked up in the Marines. And then we get this whole arc, and then we get fucking Law doing what Law do. Because we do run into Law in this arc, which also really opened up, or at least began the opening up of us learning about Trafalgar Law.
Right, yeah, because originally, if I remember correctly, the supernovas, I think he just created because he was told that he had to introduce more characters, so he just introduced like 9 new characters to fill us out, and and they were not going to have any more development after that. But then I'm glad he decided to keep these guys in because as we go on, they get more development, and some of them end up being really really cool, like Law and Bej later on.
For sure. And here's the thing. Actually, the meeting they had about that was really interesting because, like One Piece had a huge cast of characters already, right? But they were like, you need to make, more characters. We need some younger, new blood characters so we can continue to make nice statues of them and not buggy. That's literally the only reason they made. No, I'm still mad I can't get a portrait of Pirate Buggy. They're too busy making the 17th Law figure because.
Because he's everyone's favorite.
Well, because Law ended up being, as a lot of people call him, is the Poochie of the series. Kind of like how, if you guys know Simpsons, where there's a whole episode of Poochie that was introduced to Itchy and Scratchy, the cartoon that they watch. He's supposed to be like the cool character, the cool character that everyone loves. So like originally Ace was the Poochie, and then when he's gone, now it's Law. Law's the Poochie, where like he's just. You like him because he's cool, or you're supposed to like him because he's cool, not because he is actually cool.
And it did actually work because, which we'll get into here once we cover the next couple arcs. We do learn about Law, and but he is on this island too. I'm trying to remember exactly. Is it because of the fruit, right?
So his whole thing was he was trying to gain access to Doflamingo. Because he had dealings with Doflamingo, and the leader of the island, Caesar, who is basically I think he actually learned some from Vegapunk, but he was really just working for Doflamingo in disguise, and you find out the whole reason why is he was making these fake devil fruits. to
The smile fruit.
Yeah, to essentially supply, which we won't find out yet, but one of the emperors with these fake devil fruits.
Yeah, and
Which was
Caesar Clown is a real interesting character. If do you like unique laughs? Because get used to his, because you're gonna hear a lot watching the anime. You'll be reading it in the manga because that motherfucker likes to laugh, and Oda loves giving people their unique laughs throughout the franchise.
Oh yeah.
But
we also, it's kind of funny. We get a lot of like weirdness because as the arcs go, the groups get split up. Like some of them draw the short straw and have to go onto the island with Luffy. Some of them are like, yeah, we're staying on the boat. Well, the ones that stay on the boat end up getting gassed and drug onto the island anyway.
Right.
And then we get to see all these weird ass things. Like the first thing we run into is a dragon. Zoro ends up slicing up this dragon. And then they find out that there are a pair of legs on this dragon's head that Luffy just kind of like recruits to the crew. Then later on, we end up finding some weird ass centaurs that are on the island, run by a pirate named Brownbeard, who he actually had a run in with Basil Hawkins. Which was kind of interesting because we didn't really know what Basil Hawkins' motivation is. Meanwhile, we get the other half of the crew who are waking up, and I want to say the other half of the crew consisted of I remember Chopper was there for sure. I think Sanji, Usopp,
and
Frankie,
yeah, I think
and
Nami was with them. Yeah.
Yeah. And they basically wake up in this giant like playroom for like children. And you kind of find out that whoever is in charge of this base is making experiments on these children. Because some of them came in their normal size and they've been growing because they've been getting medicine every day. We also get introduced to you see Law. You're not really sure what side he's on, but it seems like he's with Caesar, and you're not really understanding, what's going on there. I think we get to this point where we're under the impression that Caesar has Law's heart, right?
Yeah.
You soon find out that Law has his ability can do more than just switch people's heads with cannonballs, and he could just slice them up entirely, but he can also replace the parts. So he essentially made the centaurs that you saw, and we soon find out that there's this samurai who he sliced up as well, and they were just scattered all over the place. That was the legs that Luffy found. And then we end up, finding more parts to him, and he ends up being the samurai Kinemon, who honestly was a really cool character to run into.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because his introduction to this was like open. Like this is the first time we had heard. Like I believe he mentions early on that like where he's from is Wano, and which I think we had only maybe had heard it was Tashiki mentioned when giving like the history of the legendary swords.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got first confirmation that Wano and these katanas okay, and he's straight up samurai. I mean, old school, top knot, everything. Okay, so Wano is probably gonna be like feudal Japan, and we'll find out way down the line if we were right or not. But that was a great first okay, more even subtle world building just by introducing him now.
Right. Yeah, and we also another one of Caesar's people that's here to protect him was Monet. So she's like an ice harpy or a snow harpy, and you could tell that she's with the whole because I think you even with Smile, it's very implied that the person that's sort of running things here is Doflamingo.
Right.
You end up finding out that Law is here to get close to Doflamingo. So he essentially allies himself with the Straw Hat Pirates. and it's just like so great. But whenever he first popped up, they brought in I think the Marine ships were coming in, and he was basically the welcome wagon for them. And he manipulated the ships, cut them all to pieces, cut all of the Marines into pieces, and they're still alive. And then the best thing that he did was he started swapping people's hearts. And when he did, he swapped their personalities.
Right.
So he put Tashigi in Smoker's body and Smoker in Tashigi's body.
Which led to
I think-
some amazing antics. Because, like, you think about that, you've already seen Smoker. This man is known for just walking around with an open jacket and no shirt underneath. And a winter half of the island isn't going to stop the man from wearing his style. And neither is switching bodies with a woman, because like when they switch, suddenly it's Tashigi smoking her cigar, has got the giant weapon, and just unbuttoned her shirt because he ain't gonna change his ways, damn it.
Yeah.
But in the contrast though of also now you're seeing Smoker, at least in his body, Tashigi's in there, and you're seeing him be kind of timid and like embarrassed and like kind of submissive. It was, to me, it cracked me the fuck up. I loved the switching up.
It was good.
Yeah, and I love that whole thing. And then we get into even bigger with the straw hats.
Yeah. Yeah, and Law ends up swapping a bunch of them, and the biggest mistake ever, swaps fucking Nami and Sanji.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think doesn't Chopper end up being Frankie, and Frankie ends up being Chopper as well?
Yeah, it's Chopper is in Sanji, Frankie's in Chopper, Sanji's in Nami, and Nami's in Frankie.
Oh right, yeah, because I remember
yeah, because the only way they can keep them straight is that they all have to wear like a little like face of who's inside of them on their forehead.
Yeah. And Frankie Chopper was probably one of my favorite pairings all day, just because of the faces that he made, and he just looked adorable, but he had that super serious like Frankie face and voice.
Yeah. I think for the most part he's sitting in Kung Fu Point the whole time, so he's big and round and acting like Frankie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which again, like I said, really showing like the level of Law's ability with his devil fruit of just like I forget the actual name of it, but it's just like he just says like room, and he can manipulate that level of stuff. Like
isn't the opium fruit or whatever is OPE?
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh
But
man.
like this, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna mention another character that they introduce that you start off and it's like, oh, this guy's a Marine. Is he here to help Smoker and all of them? Was Virgo, because he was part of G5, and you find out that he had basically infiltrated the Marines as somebody that's working for Doflamingo, and like he's really interesting, right? Because he constantly has things stuck to his face.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was one of the actual 4 elite officers and the first to occupy the heart seat of the Doflamingo Pirates, which we will get into. He was also a vice admiral and head of the G5. Yeah, and it was just like he was pretty terrifying, right? I think he was one of the first people that popped up that could just absolutely cover his entire body in armament hockey.
Yeah, I think that's the first time I saw full blown. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he kind of had this this very terrifying, and like you could see like the whole time that Law was just visibly disturbed by this person. Just like Law was terrified of him, and you kind of got this sense of him having a past with him, which we kind of get into the Suits of Cards type thing, and you sort of look, and Law's got like the heart tattoo and everything like that, and he's like a doctor and messing with people's hearts, so that's kind of a thing that pops up later as well. Um, yeah, it was just a really really emotional like scene with the children and Nami basically finding out like how they're being abused and used and everything. At first, I think they're blaming the Marines for it, and then Tashigi and Smoker get there and they're like, "We don't know shit about this. Like this is not us." And Caesar is basically trying to do this attempt where he's like, "Okay, well, the jig is up. I guess we gotta wipe the whole island clean." And his big thing for Caesar is that he is a gas man, and he can make different types of poisonous gas from his body.
Right.
And he has this this new batch of gas, and what he does is he has this this pet that's like an axolotl that it was an axolotl fruit that he through the means of like Vegapunk's research infused into like some kind of poison gas. So he made this poison gas a living thing from this animal fruit. So this thing basically is like this giant jelly monster that anything that it touches like essentially instantly dies. But the big thing about it is whenever it finally like kicks the bucket, it explodes into this poisonous gas that's spreading through the entire island. And it that sort of provided a really interesting scene too. And during that scene, this is basically like a presentation. We've only really had Doflamingo mentioned as Joker. Obviously you could put two to two together and realize who that is. But you get a lot of these like underworld people on screens and stuff that are watching this all unfold. But also whenever Smiley ends up dying, you see this a thing of fruit that's down below, and one of them slowly turns into a devil fruit. So it's essentially like they said, the devil and the fruit in the original user passes on to an actual fruit. So it sort of kind of gives a little bit more myth to the devil fruits in general. And this is not like one of the smile fruits. This is an actual fruit. They're very different in the way that their sort of shapes and everything on them are. I think the smile fruits have just circles on them, and the devil fruits have interesting like kind of intricate spirals and stuff like that. We find out that the whole reason that Kinemon was on this island was to save one of the children that were abducted, and that's Momonosuke, who we find out was tried to sneak out and ate one of the smile fruits, and now he has this uncontrollable thing of where he turns into like this dragon, which I was thinking about the other day, and it doesn't really happen anymore, right?
No, it hasn't happened in a while.
Yeah, he hasn't turned into the dragon. Like, honestly, I kind of forgot about it, and now I'm kind of wondering, like, did we forget if they somehow cured it, or he just hasn't broken it out yet, which he might in the current arc.
Right.
But yeah, we haven't seen.
Yeah. We get these struggles with this harpy girl Monet. It's one of the first times we actually see Zoro use Haki, because she's made out of snow and ice, and he actually is able to defeat her and slice her in half. You also get this whole point of Law fighting Virgo, and that was like a really cool fight for me, because it was essentially like Law fighting his past in this way, and this is somebody that's like tormented him this whole time, and he was essentially just completely underestimating Law, and he's this person that has this ability that he can turn his entire body into armament Haki and just waylay somebody and just absolutely destroy them. And Law in this fucking attempt just uses room, if I'm remembering correctly, on the entire almost the entire island, and that's basically he cuts him in half.
Right.
Like he cuts the entire island in half, cutting Virgo in half. And it's just this like huge moment, right? Because devil fruits aren't supposed to work on armament hockey, so it kind of gives you this the sense of like a power level. Like, you know, if your devil fruit is stronger than the person's armament hockey, then you could push through it and defeat them.
Yep.
It's kind of how Zoro eventually defeated Daz Bones in Alabasta. Is he sort of like overcame like his limits and you know, sliced through him and defeated him. And yeah, so Law dispatches him. You have Luffy fighting Caesar throughout this, and of course, you kind of get this point where Caesar at some point tries to poison Luffy, but as we know from the Impel Down arc, Luffy is not affected by poison any longer. He is completely null to it.
Right.
I think with the this arc, how it wraps up is they're basically running away from the death smoke that's coming after them, and you just get this like just this interesting scene. I guess the Straw Hats get away, so all that's really left is the all of the Marines, and they're planning on taking the children back, and that's when, you know, Doflamingo fucking shows up,
Right.
and it's like Doflamingo coming in. It's like, we've got this big scary guy that just popped up after all this because, you know, they wrecked his shit, and then that's when Aokiji steps in, and they essentially get into it, and from what I'm remembering is like he just doesn't really want to fuck with it. They also sent Baby Five and another one of his Doflamingo's crew after them, and he later finds their heads like severed by Law's power, and a Dindin Mushi that's like, you know, Laws with his like new little hat and everything on top of it.
Right.
And they just kind of get this sense of like, yeah, we'll see you around or whatever. And so we get this interesting coupling, and I'm pretty sure one of the Straw Hats mentioned is whenever Law proposed an alliance, they're like, "Are you sure you want to, you know, go into an alliance with Luffy?" And it kind of gets to this point where like Luffy is, you know, Law's like, "Here's the plan," and Luffy's like, "Well, fuck that," as Luffy do.
As Luffy do.
And you know, Trafalgar's immediately like, "What have I done? Like, what have I entered into?"
And he's been regretting it ever since.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just kind of like a little aside back to it, because I finally got to the images and stuff. Doflamingo is basically trashing Smoker, and he's essentially about to get to a point where he kills him. And then somebody steps up and they're like, "Hey, can you take your hands off my friend?" And that's whenever it ends up being Kuzan Aokiji. And, you know, this is the first real moment that we get where it's like, oh, he's not in the Marines anymore because he's not wearing any of the Marine outfit. He's wearing pretty standard clothes. And he basically, you know, Doflamingo doesn't want a confrontation with a former admiral. So he ends up just kind of breaking free, and since he doesn't have anything to gain from a fight with him, he ends up leaving. And he collects his two subordinates, Baby Five and Buffalo, who Law leaves behind. And I guess that's kind of whenever we sort of, you know, find out like there are things going on in the New World that's like just whispered about. The Marines don't have any control over it, and then Aokiji seems to know a little bit more about what's going on now, and he's kind of like warning him about Sakazuki, the Kainu, and just you now that he's the admiral and everything. So we kind of end on this note, and they're talking about the next island that they want to go to. We also get a neat little scene at some point where Kinemon points out Zoro's sword, Chisui, that he got from Ryuma back in the Thriller Bark arc, and he's like, "Where did you get one of Wano's treasures or whatever?" And Zoro keeps trying to tell him, and he's like, "No, I don't believe you. What are you talking about? That
Right.
was a legendary swordsman that died centuries ago or whatever." And he kind of just sort of leaves it. We do also find out that Kinemon, they call him Foxfire Kinemon, because he can turn his attacks and everything into fire. He also has the ability to basically transmute things, which they haven't really gone too far into.
No.
They've essentially only used it for warm clothes in Punk Hazard, and then disguises later on.
Right.
But we kind of get to this thing where Law has this plan of going after Doflamingo on Dressrosa. Kinemon and Momonosuke have another reason for going, because that's where they got split up with one of their comrades. And there's an alliance now, so the Straw Hats are on this ride to help take down. I can't remember if the main goal for Law was to take down one of the emperors or just take down Doflamingo. I think it was.
I think the whole point was to take down Kaido, the fourth emperor, who we haven't seen at all. But because of the way that his whole structure works out, Doflamingo happens to be the next stop anyway to disrupt the whole Smile Fruit distribution.
Right.
Right. So, and he's working his way to the top.
Yep. And like this, like I said, this arc opened up a lot more into what we're going to be getting into in the future. A lot of seeds were planted in this one, which is why it was a standout. On top of, like I said, again, with the, with Caesar Clowns, Gas Fruit, interesting fight that poisonous salamander, or Oxidal.
Yeah.
However you say it. I never known how to pronounce that, but Jerry had it. Was good. And then, like I said, just seeing Smoker Tashigi show back up, Law showing back up with that. Okay, we want to talk about redesigns. I hate his new fucking hat. I still do.
Yeah.
I don't like
it. Did we even mention the fact that he comes back and he is one of the current 7 warlords?
We forgot. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
actually.
I think that was part of the reason why he was on the island to begin with, was that he was one of the warlords. He can kind of do whatever he wants now.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the that is one of the things that they mentioned. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that they got into one of the other warlords in this arc too, didn't they? They actually went through who the other warlords were, right?
I believe so, actually.
I think so.
Maybe it was on Fishman Island, but yeah, we had a change, we had a shift in the warlords.
Yeah. So Law is now a warlord, and Sean's favorite.
How did I forget that? Yeah.
I don't know.
I think because they only kind of mentioned it briefly, but we don't see him until this next one. But yeah,
right.
With Buggy, and I love how he became a warlord. It's not necessarily because of anything he's done, but the amount of leadership he has. Because he is again in charge of a lot of criminals from Impel Down, who are stronger than he is, but they know that he is the greatest pirate in the entire world.
Right. Yeah, so there were actually 3 slots that needed to be filled. Well, we got Law, we got Buggy, and then there was one mysterious one that they did not announce yet.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we just kind of left it on this note of I guess we've got bigger and badder fish to fry in the sea, and I guess that's where we'll pick up next time is on Dressrosa. Yeah. We covered more story arcs in the last 3 episodes that we did. I mean, but these are way longer. They're double the size for sure. Because that was a big thing about One Piece during this time after the time skip is before you would get to a plateau of an arc, and then it would kind of go down with information and just kind of filling us in on stuff, and it just never plateaued for the longest time. It just kept going up and up, and more stuff kept happening, and it was just just a huge, like, wild trip for the longest time, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it now, just to
Mhm.
warn our listeners. Be prepared. If y'all, especially if you know Dressrosa, which is
Mhm.
the next arc, it could damn near be a one and done episode. 'Cause
Mhm.
Right.
there
Yeah.
is,
Well, I mean,
because there's so much. I mean, we can always, shorten it down, right? But like, there's so many characters, and there's like world building in this one. It would, like, it'll be. I don't want to short any of these. You know what I mean? And
right.
I think
Yeah.
we've covered as best to our memory and whatever wiki we have open. Doing
Mhm.
good. But like, yeah, Dressrosa was a huge arc.
Yeah, and I mean, not even that. We jump from that to Zoe. Then we go from Zoe to fucking Whole Cake Island, which was a massive arc in itself.
Yeah.
And then we go from that to where we are now.
Yeah,
And
so yeah, we may not be
yeah,
able to. We may be hitting a few episodes where we only got one arc in, but we'll see. We'll see.
right.
We want to keep
Yeah,
it paced and entertaining for y'all. If
we're
if we need to hurry it up, let us know in the comments. If we need to slow it down, you're loving it. Let us know in the comments, and we'll never stop because One Piece will never stop. Um,
Nope.
but if y'all liked what you heard today, please like, comment, subscribe, share with everyone. Let people know who are hopefully caught up because we're spoiling the shit out of the series. But if we haven't gotten to anything yet that some of your friends know, don't let them listen to it. But listen to the early stuff where they have covered. See if they agree with our thoughts or not. But that is gonna do it for today. So, Mike, once again, thank you for just sticking through all of this with us.
Oh, of course, yeah. I say it every time, but I love being on this. I love just talking One Piece for 2 hours ish. So I love it.
Well,
oh yeah, it's always a pleasure.
oh yeah, but that's gonna do it for today. So we're gonna catch y'all later.
Peace.
Later.